Welcome to Curious with Josh Peck. Start the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Whoa, what the fuck is this? No, I'm kidding. Welcome to Curious. Welcome back. I can't believe that you're here. Honestly, I can't believe that anyone's here, including the people that I interview and you beautiful listeners. But I am thankful every single time. Every time that I just sort of do a bit of a deep dive, check out how the old show's doing, look at the metrics, at the optics, as showbiz people say it, and I see that people are listening. You guys are tuning in. Or, I mean, I don't know if tuning in works with podcasting because it's sort of a radio reference, and I mean, it referenced the literal dial tuning of the antenna and the frequency in which the radio waves worked, and this is just digital media on demand. But nevertheless, you guys listen, and oh my dear, that means a lot. Thank you. I'm recording this intro in the morning, like right as I got out of bed, because I find my voice has a nice timbre to it, and my voice can go quite high at times. Usually, if I'm ordering food to go, or I'm on with customer service, they refer to me as ma'am, and that's just something that I've grown to accept, and that's okay, because my voice kind of sounds like it's sort of like a husky, raspy, 13-year-old smoker voice, and I like it. Yeah, I don't mind it. It's the voice in which I've grown up with. What's going on in the world? The World Cup. That's interesting, right? I like it. I have to act like I'm more interested than I am, but I am interested. I don't know why. I like it. I'm not a huge sports guy, but there's something about the World Cup, about bringing people together, about it being the world's game, because it really is, let's be honest. I mean, I think I heard a figure once that a regular just sort of soccer game with a popular football club like Manchester or Real Madrid gets as many viewers as the American Super Bowl. Just like a one-off regular season game. That's a highly watched game. The people, they love it. I find the players are really sharp. I'm in awe of their haircuts. I just think they look cool. They all look kind of like, athletes / assassins. And yeah, I'm jealous. I am jealous. Today's episode is a young man, a young actor, a young person named Tony Revelori, who is a good buddy of mine. You would know Tony from the Grand Budapest Hotel, just a little movie with every famous person ever in it, where he played the lobby boy. Spider-Man Homecoming, where he plays a pivotal character, because I have seen the movie. I've seen that movie, and he plays an important one. He was also in Dope. Such a talented guy, and just a good dude. And I love him very much. We made a movie together called Take the 10 for Netflix, which you can watch now. You can make this a Josh Peck day. Listen to the pod, get home, throw it on. It's a fun comedic romp, written and directed by my buddy Chester. So enjoy it. Here's Tony. Okay, bye.
Because I feel like people want to hear my rambling.
Don't start a podcast because it's going to threaten me.
I mean, I'm not going to start it though.
I mean, if you start one and then every actor starts one, it's going to be bad. What makes me special?
What makes you special is everything.
I'm ready. Keep going. Don't worry. The mics are hot. You can just go.
What makes you special, Josh
Just start
Peck,
it now. People are going to love this.
is the name.
Okay.
You're Josh fucking Peck. The stories you have in your head are endless and priceless.
Go on.
Your physical regimen
Wow.
To keep fit is something I think should be shared with the world.
It's 'cause
encouragement.
It's because I eat like a pig.
So do I.
I have no choice.
See, I wish I gotten fat instead of sick, because I got sick. I ate like shit, and now I got like high cholesterol and a bunch of like terrible like health problems.
Do you have high cholesterol?
I have massive high cholesterol.
So do I.
Oh, do you really? Okay, does this mean to be
Yeah,
closer?
you can take it out. Whatever's, just keep
okay.
it kind of closest to you, but whatever's
Gotcha.
comfortable. But what's your cholesterol? Let's compare and contrast.
I think it was. I have no idea, but it was like really high.
Over 200?
Yes.
Sick. It's like a batting average. It's like.
And I remember it was New Year's this year.
Hold on one second. I'm going to
Sure.
turn you down a little bit.
Because I'm loud.
No, you're allowed. Here, go. Give me a little test.
Little test. 1, 2, 3. Hello, baby Joshua Peck.
I'm very, I'm the audio engineer for this
Yeah.
podcast.
No, it's great. It's a DIY. Do it yourself. Yeah, DIY.
Yeah, sure.
I'm
I
terrible
think
with
that
those
sounds really good.
Okay, great.
Good. Enjoy that,
You're
listeners.
listening to Shua Peck at 103.5. The sound.
I like that. Yeah.
I think it might be copyrighted, but we'll figure out a different one for you.
I always wanted to be like,
You're listening to 88.1
Oh, wow.
88.1 The Coast.
Shit, that's great.
Los Angeles, California. It's going to be a high of 68 degrees today.
See, in my mind, I've always wanted to be a radio DJ after seeing Good Morning Vietnam.
okay.
Because, that's like the quintessential radio movie, besides like pirate radio. But like,
do you want to be Robin Williams doing it?
Of course. I want to be Robin Williams, like is screaming at the top, "Good morning, Vietnam." You know what I mean?
I feel like the radio, those zookeepers, right? Who'd be like, well, we're back.
Yeah.
That was another cutoff of Katy Perry's new album, and wow.
It's great. Now coming at you with 2 hot tickets for Coachella. Dab it with me.
And that was yet another track from Bruno. It's not Mercury, it's Bruno Mars.
Jeez. It's always with the stupid puns because they can't come up with anything better.
Well, what happens is, and Howard Stern always does this, is the real talent of a radio DJ, zookeeper, is that when he plays the album, you've got to get out all the information right before the song starts. So it's got to be like, so if you're playing Bruno Mars, it would be something like, Bruno Mars is a young guy from Hawaii. Who knew he'd have such an incredible career? This is a new cut off his album called I Like It Like That. And then, boom.
Oh, wow.
I got a condo in
Yeah,
Manhattan.
you got it.
Yeah.
And then you go into it. See, I could never do that.
Right,
I'd be
that's
like,
what I like.
Yo, this is Bruno Mars. Enjoy. I don't remember the song title name, but it's a good one. Enjoy.
You could also be the NPR guy, like very
Hello.
subdued. Hi.
This is one time I went to the store. Everyone would be like, fuck, man.
I respect those guys, though.
Do you really?
I respect anyone who doesn't feel the need to overly entertain because of their deep-seated insecurity.
No. I got massive deep-seated insecurities. I
Same
need
here.
to, yeah, right?
That's why we're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's why we vibe.
We're trying to entertain each other, and then we out-entertain each other, and then we're like, oh, fuck, I gotta beat him. No, I gotta beat him.
Well, then it's exhausting.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's like Jim Carrey and, what's his name? Tommy Lee Jones in that Batman movie. Where
Right.
Tommy Lee Jones tried to outdo Jim Carrey, which is like, why? Also,
Yeah, no.
your character doesn't need to.
And I find I used to do this when I was single with girls especially, where I'd go on such a good run and I'd feel so damn entertaining and I'd be completely depleted of everything that I had that I'd want to disappear. I'd be like, listen, trust me, I got nothing else. You don't want to be around this.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll see you in 3 to 7 days. Allow me to recharge, the old comedy
100%.
batteries.
See, I'm single, so I'm burning myself out now.
Yeah.
I do that constantly, and I'm very romantic, so I try very, very hard to woo a girl. I try to be that romantic person because I feel like every girl deserves that every meeting a guy tries for this to be the happy end ever after because I want my happy ever after. But you know, it never ends up working. Like 3 hours later, you're like, I'm burnt out. I don't like you anymore. But I've tried so hard. And the worst is when they're like, oh, I'm still into it. Like, why are you leaving? I'm like, because I'm no longer into you.
Do you go in heavy?
I go in heavy.
Okay.
But the thing is with me is I flirt with everyone. I'm complimentary with everyone. So if I'm actually flirting with you, I actually kind of pull back.
Right.
But if I'm like just being a charming natural self, then it's not really flirting. That's just me being me.
Right.
But a lot of girls and guys get confused, and I'm like, nope, just being nice.
I've been hit on by my fair share of dudes, and I just find it incredibly flattering.
I do too. But again, like, it's scarce. You get it maybe once a month or once a week.
You're getting
at
hit
most.
on by a dude once a month?
Maybe if
Good
I
for
go to the
you.
right places.
I'm lucky if I get it every 18 months. If I'm in Palm
Listen,
Springs.
just call me. I'll come and hit on you every day.
I mean, first of all, thank you. But it's, I feel like I really want to talk about your cholesterol.
Yeah, I know.
I'm fascinated.
How we've like gone from cholesterol all the way to hitting on girls.
Well, I find, I'm not a little bit, I'm 10 years your senior, sir.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Jeez.
yeah, I'm 31.
Fuck.
You're
You look
21?
so young.
I know, it's weird.
It's
It's
great.
great. Yeah.
It's great. You could still play a high schooler.
I don't know about that.
On
It'd be
CW.
weird. Yeah, on the CW. CW, what's up? I
Get a superhero show there. Like you could be the Flash Junior,
Oh, I suppose I would say yes to that if I was so offered.
right? I mean, it's like CW. Hit Josh up.
It's either that or like the 8th neurotic Jewy lead on like the next, NBC sitcom. That's pretty much my wheelhouse.
Which everyone seems to be getting that same it seems every billboard I pass on the street for every new NBC, ABC, all these new shows look exactly the same.
It's definitely a product. They produce something that people are used to.
Right. And I feel like Marvel did it too, being a part of Marvel. It was like, but now they're trying to differentiate. That word? Probably.
Sure.
But they're trying to be different, like adding different things. Thor Ragnarok is something, Black Panther is something different.
Right.
But I feel like now all these network shows are just like, let's just make the same exact thing with different people and just a slight twist and haha. And it's like, I don't know.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to ask you that. And I think you're right with Black Panther and Thor that they've really figured out a way to sort of reinvent the medium in a respect. But it was getting to a certain point where I was like, I don't know who's directing these things. Like, it was sort of a factory.
They do, all their movies are great. But like Doctor Strange, I think, is the one where I was like, okay, this is like kind of paint by numbers slightly. And I started feeling that way, say Ant-Man-esque. And again, they're fantastic movies, but I started to feel the fatigue of it. And they invigorated it by bringing, a Taika Waititi, Ryan Coogler, John Watts in Spider-Man, and letting them bring something new to it. So it wasn't just the formulaic thing, which it's still there, but it's the formulaic something with something else, with a heist movie, with a, Thor Ragnarok was like a through and through comedy.
Right.
Like making fun of it all, and Spider-Man had like a John Hughes feel. So it's like now they're like, okay, we can't just make a Marvel movie. We have to make it, but with something else. It has to be something new. And of course now everyone's going to go see Infinity War, and that doesn't need to be anything but that. Because everyone's going to be like, oh my God, Captain America. For the viewers, I'm making or listeners, I'm making a really masturbation session.
A tasteful jerk off
session, yes.
Sort of
gesture.
Yeah, sure. But do you think, I was thinking about it because, I was doing my research about you earlier because it's the kind of interviewer I am. People are going to be like, I thought they were friends. He doesn't fucking know anything about him.
He doesn't. Josh knows nothing about me.
What I found interesting is guys like John Watts and what have you is that, his work up until that point, he had done some really good, small, character-driven movies, but you wouldn't necessarily look at that and go, he's ready for $100 million plus franchise.
Yeah.
But it seems like Marvel sort of, they know what they're great at, and so they cultivate these directors who are great at story and character.
And they trust in their directors. I think more so now because and with John Watt's situation, Spider-Man's still technically owned by Sony, so we have that little bit of, you know, things and boring talks I can go into and stuff like that, even though I don't really know the exact specifics of contracts and things like that. But, you know, I think what's great about Marvel now is they truly let their directors bring their own flavor,
Right.
bring their own scripts, and it all comes, I think, from the script. You know, Spider-Man script was written by John Francis Daley and what was the other guy's name?
Someone great, I'm sure.
Someone great.
Yeah.
It was like I think the kid in Freaks and Geeks.
Isn't that John Francis Daley?
That is John, but
think
it's
that's
the
him.
other one. John
But is he
Swarm.
happy?
Yes. I mean, he directed Game Night, which was great.
He's
I
killing
liked
it.
and now he's doing the Flash movie, I think.
But is he happy? That's what let's get down to
Listen,
brass tacks.
as child actors, we can delve into his mind.
Yeah, too deep probably.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You know, it's funny. Years ago, I was having dinner with Vincent D'onofrio because I have famous friends.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Let me just pick
pick up
that
that
name
name a
drop
little bit, yeah.
off the floor. No, it was random, and I was just someone's plus one. But he was lovely, and so nice of him to have me to his home. And he was working on Daredevil, and he sort of mentioned something
Yeah.
to that effect, which was Marvel knows that when it comes to action and capturing that sort of thing, they have a team. They know it's
So all the action is done up. Like by the time the director's like, oh, the script's written, we've already prevised everything. Like you can maybe have him say a line here and there, but like our stunt people, our camera people, they know exactly what needs to be done. You don't even need to be on set.
they've created it already.
They've already
It's
done
literally a second unit almost.
100%. And certain directors can come in and be like, yo, I'm feeling something like different, you know, can we make it more like Ryan Coogler, if you see his fight scenes, you know, they're more one takes as opposed to like the usual Marvel 20 cuts and the things like that.
And
And that was his like, you know, kind of injection into the fight scene. So they have some say, but for the most part, these guys know how to do it and will do it to a T.
And who's creating these fight scenes? Is it the stunt coordinator? Is it?
It's a mix.
Do they have a special name? Like
they have
the
like
guru
a
on set?
second unit.
Sensei.
Yeah, our senseis. They have a second unit that they mostly do all of the fight scenes and all the like heavy stunt things that take time to do, like 4 hours to set up in between takes, because it's a really like
Aren't
I remember
those great? Those 4-hour setups.
those four, oh god, I hate them so much. But so we had 3 Spider-Man people, and I remember one of them, we'd call him Crash Dummy Dave, because he would do everything that would just hurt anybody.
Right.
Like he would do, like him getting ratchet into a wall and be like actually getting hit. That would be him. And there's a scene in Spider-Man where the bus like tumbles over after Bokeem Woodbrand. I don't know his character's name. That's terrible.
I'm
But
sure people out there do.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. He punches a bus and it spins around, and they actually set a bus and had it tumble around. And they put him in there, no wires, no nothing, and just had him like bounce. But that setup time was terrible. And so they knew they were going to use that shot, but John didn't need to be there.
But they love, you know, stuntmen especially are built like no other people on this earth. And
Yes.
they are specific creatures, and I am
Yeah.
so in awe and indebted to them. And I don't have any, like much respect to Tom Cruise because he's the man, and who am I to talk?
Of course he
But
is.
like, I saw Homeboy break his ankle on that Mission Impossible stunt. I'm like, you wouldn't catch me doing that. Hell no. Because I already know, like, I'm not built for physicality. I'm built for jokes. I'm a theater guy. You know what I mean? I suck at sports. And so I know that these guys with the right, you know, curly, dark-haired wig on,
Right. They could be you.
with my chubby fit body type.
You're pretty fit.
Thank
Like
you.
don't take that away from you. I've seen you in the gym. You work out. But like
No big
here's
deal.
the thing.
But they kill
did-
it.
But how much I'm curious, how much of your own stunts did you do on Red Dawn?
Okay, so it's funny you say that with Red Dawn. Like, I had a guy, his name was Craig Baxley Jr., and he came from a stunt family. He's
Great.
royalty.
Ooh, great.
And besides just being, what I love, where I find I fall in love when I'm working on a movie or television show, is that the crew is, they're like a can of corn. They're like real. Yeah. They're real people. Like, because when you think about the people that it takes to make a movie work, it's Millions. Physical labor people working hard, insane hours, willing to be away from their family. And these guys are salt of the earth people, the men and women. And so
of course.
I find that I always fall in love with the crew and the stunt guys. Likewise. Especially because they're real life superheroes. I remember Craig, they created this scene where I had to run through a plate glass window that I just shot out with a AK-47.
Great. Beautiful.
No big deal. I'm Josh from Drake and Josh. You know what I'm saying? And so I voted to not do that one.
Pussy.
Craig's like, I got this shit. He's like, ain't no thing. He's like, word, just tell me where to shoot. So they have safety glass.
Right.
And the whole idea behind going through glass is they explode it a millisecond before you go through it. So it shatters and then you can go through. He ran through it like a G. He's fine. Like I have to do a running scene and I'm like, ouch, my quad. And I look at Craig and he has hundreds of micro cuts all over his face, his body, and it just ain't shit to him. And he's like, well, yeah, it's safety glass, but it's glass. Yeah, there's glass in the name.
Oh, see? And why would they even ask you to do that if they knew the potential of that was possible? Well, because the thing is, you're Josh Peck. Like, you don't want to ruin that pretty face.
Thank you. That's what I try to get across to these people. No, I mean, there is a level of, and I don't know how it was with Spider-Man, but especially...
Didn't do any stunts.
Respect.
Because they make also, my character didn't do any stunts.
But they're professionals that make it look so much better than we could.
Oh, 100%. There was one stunt that I'm so sad wasn't in it. We had a stunt where Spider-Man lands on my car. He's like, give me your car. And it was terrifying already because I had to land. He was hanging a good story apart from the car. And so he was landing on the hood of the car, actually dropping from like 1 story higher. They had him on a crane that he was holding onto. And if I missed that mark, he would go through the windshield. He would go onto the floor. So I had to land it perfectly. And I was terrified. And obviously you couldn't do a stunt double because you were seeing my face as I went up. So I did it a couple times. It messed up, whatever. Finally got it right. You see that in the movie. But then the continued scene was he picks me and my date up. And she was a stunt girl. So that's why they got her, because she was an actual stunt person. He picks us up, throws us, and webs us to a lamppost or something. And I was like, I want to do that scene. I want them to pick me up out of the car, throw me, and be webbed to a wall. But they were like, no, it's going to cost too much money. I was like, you fucking dicks.
That's great.
But I've done a couple of stunts on Budapest. I did a falling out of the window stunt, a lot of running gags, climbing gags, little things, little physical things. But the one that I was terrified of was I had to hang out over a window and look down. And they built this thing probably, I want to say 4 feet wide. So I had to literally lie on my stomach and lean my body out. And they had a grip who held onto my pants so I wouldn't fall over, because I would have. So I was terrified because I was, I don't know, 7 stories high looking down at a camera. It was terrifying.
I remember you talking about your crash test dummy buddy. Is that right? Crash Dave?
Crash Dummy Dave, yeah.
Crash Dummy Dave. I remember, the director of Red Dawn was this incredibly famous stunt coordinator, second unit director named Dan Bradley.
Dope.
And he had created the scene in Adaptation where Nick Cage gets ejected out of the front, windshield of a car.
Oh, wow.
And lands on the ground. So they set it up and they're ratcheting the car and they've got the guy, they're going to put the window in post with CGI.
Great.
So they've got just basically an open windshield. They've got the stunt performer on a ratchet. So basically the car's going to land and he's going to get pulled out with thousands of pounds of force right onto the ground, no pad. So he gets ripped out. He goes flying. He hits the ground. It's incredible. It looks so good. And Dan goes, let's watch it back. So he watches it back and he's looking and he assumes because,
Yeah.
directors have to have many hats. Perhaps
Right.
they're, physicists.
Right.
He's like, the nature of this, the way you flew out of the car, you wouldn't be able to save yourself in any way, like to brace your fall. You would just sort of
No.
hit the ground.
Oh my God.
And if you look at the playback, you kind of put your hands out right as you're about to hit the ground. I think we should do it again.
No.
And they did it again, and he wasn't allowed to save himself. And it looked incredible. And
But
I'm sure that man has a lot of aches and pains when he wakes up now. But it's immortalized in cinema forever.
forever, right?
Yeah.
Same with that like girl who
So
fell
worth it.
through the window in Back to the Future.
Right.
It's like all these stunt people who've done like incredible things and incredible stunts. The girl who got ran over in Identity Thief, the Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
And like cracked her skull open or something.
But they're just ready. They're built for it.
They're ready.
They're tougher
for it.
than we.
I can't do it.
Let's get back to your cholesterol.
Okay, let's get back to my cholesterol.
Is it? Listen, I'm 31, and God knows I've had my foray into overeating during my entire teenage years.
Yeah.
I want. Is it a? I don't want to overly generalize, but I have a few Latin friends who've got the high cholesterol.
Yeah.
I've got a couple Jewish friends with the high cholesterol. Is it?
It might be a thing.
Are we predisposed?
I feel like the foods we eat,
Right.
like definitely, it is definitely genetic. Because I've had high cholesterol. Like it wasn't that
I
high,
love this.
but I've had high cholesterol since I was like a good 9 years old.
I'm
and
such
I would
a
eat,
Jew that I love cholesterol talk. Next we'll get into how well your thyroid's functioning.
I mean, like the thing is, it was my dad. Like we ate healthy. It wasn't that we ate bad. I just like it was a genetic thing. And I ate a burger a little too much, but but burger's my favorite food. Don't judge me.
You gotta live, baby. You
Like,
don't have any other
If I could eat a
vices.
burger a day, I would. Like 1,000%.
Well, let's go back, right? So
Yeah,
let's
so
let's start at the beginning. Where your parents are from Guatemala.
parents are from Guatemala. Both came over to the States.
When?
My dad was 21 and he was born in 52.
Okay, so this is 70s.
This is 70s. Yeah. He came later. And my mom came 10 years later.
Okay.
After they were married. And
So dad came to scope it out.
Dad came to scope it out. Became a college graduate. First in our family to ever graduate college.
Where did he graduate?
Cal State Fullerton.
No big deal.
No big deal. But,
Alright.
just like he's a fancy, smart guy.
Artist, scientist, business, what?
Was studying to be a doctor.
Wow.
Had migraine headaches since he was a kid, and he was applying to be a surgeon, and they said no, you can't be a surgeon because we tested your migraines. They come on without any warning. So if you're going into a surgery and you just suddenly have a migraine and kill a patient, that's a huge liability. So you cannot do it. Here's a biology degree to say sorry for your troubles.
Wow.
And then he got like a foreign language degree. So he has like 2 bachelor's degrees, and then he became an income tax preparer.
So an academic.
Yeah.
All right.
And he would eat kind of like he was a guy who worked out every day. And then as like my brother and I were born, I noticed, as we went on, he would like sit in his job. There was my favorite restaurant in the world, which is in Anaheim, called Varsity Burgers on Harbor and Lincoln, was right across the street from my dad's work. So my brother and I would cross the street every day and get like chicken nuggets and fries.
Oh, yeah.
And burgers, and we would get him a burger, and we would eat it constantly.
When you'd eat without regret.
Yeah.
Remember
and
those days?
Oh, man. And we were kids. Like, nothing happened. And we would run it off in school, so it'd be fine and whatever.
See, I didn't run it off. That was the problem.
No, like, my dad put us in soccer, obviously, because I'm brown.
Fair.
And
He was like, I know what he'll be good at.
I know what'll be good for you guys. Soccer.
And what was growing up to your
Yeah.
quoting you being brown in Orange County, which is pretty, white.
It was very Republican, but there were pockets of it that were very Hispanic. And so where I lived was very Hispanic neighborhood. So it was fine, like I had my cousins who lived down the street from me, and they would always come over, and it was nice. The eatery of like home food is where it kind of gets messed up, because home cooked meals are always like red meat and tacos with a bunch of corn tortillas that are thick. Maybe you get some pico de gallo for like a little bit of flavor, but then you get like chorizo, which is like really terrible for cholesterol, or chicharron, which is like fried pork fat.
It seems as though anything with a CH before it
Yeah.
is bad for your
Is
churro.
yeah, churro.
Chicharron.
Oh man, I love churros.
Chorizo.
Fuck man,
Bad.
I could down like I go to Costco to get my churros because that's the only place I know gets churros.
Costco is an underrated eatery.
100%.
The restaurant is outstanding.
The pizza there is amazing.
780 calories per slice.
Fuck.
I know. They've just started to actually advertise it on, the signs.
Yeah.
And
Which
it's
I mean,
tough.
it's like it's tough, but it's also
It
like they
doesn't
give you-
stop me.
No,
But
not
it
at
is.
all.
But I think twice.
Now,
then
let
I
me
do
ask
it
you
anyway.
this: Are you a thick pizza guy or like a thin crust?
All right, we're gonna get personal.
I'm sorry, because I'll tell you my thing. I like thick. I'll go to like Little Caesars because it's thick, and I'm like, give me that thick. I don't want that fucking thin ass, no bread. Fuck that shit.
You
Give
go
me
to Little
thick.
Caesars because you're ghetto fabulous at heart.
100%.
As am I. And when you walk into Little Caesars, first of all, you get hit with this smell that I don't know what it is. It's like a mix of flour
And
and
pheromones.
sauce and like depravity. Or
100%.
and when you see that you can have a pizza
In
ready
5 seconds.
that moment for $5, and they literally just pull it out of this like massive oven,
I'm done.
and you're ready to go.
I'm done.
It's great.
Oh, give it to me.
Yeah.
100. And I have an older brother, Mario, and he's like, we live in Studio City, so there's Reno Pizza there, which is good.
Yeah,
it's great food.
artisanal.
Yeah,
Private
and he's like,
places.
God, I always want to go to like Reno's instead of Little Caesars. Like, fuck, you always want to go to Little Caesars. I'm like, yeah, because it's thick, it's juicy, and it fits in my belly.
I just love that your idea of thick pizza is Little Caesars.
I mean,
like,
listen-
most people would be like Chicago style.
I mean, for sure. I've been to Chicago, and that is definitely thick pizza.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to get thick pizza fast, like out of all the quick pizzas you can get, the Domino's, Papa John's, yada yadas, Little Caesars is the quickest and the thickest.
I like that. We all make choices.
I like my pizza like I like my women.
We have preferences.
Thick and quick.
Is that true?
No.
Jesus.
Well, I mean, listen, Tony likes them big, Tony likes them small, Tony likes them all.
Well, let's talk more about that.
I don't
because
discriminate.
I find that fascinating.
I don't discriminate.
I used to always say that because my wife or people would ask me like, what kind of like, what kind, do you have a type? And I always would respond, I am such a fan of the gender, the
Yeah,
female gender.
I'm good.
I just want experience, and be it with someone who's
Likewise.
a little older, a little younger, different
figure it
body
out.
types,
Yeah. Oh,
different
yeah.
ethnicities. Let's go.
Yeah, man, and I hate the people. I always like, I know this girl. I won't name her. I won't say
God.
anything.
This part's gonna get us in trouble. I know. We're gonna have to edit all this out. But whatever.
man.
No,
I know.
go, please, go.
But I'm not gonna say what she does or anything. But
Anna
she's got
Kendrick.
like
Sorry.
she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. In a quirky way, but she's beautiful. But she has like one little thing that is slightly off, and everyone like says like, "Oh man, like no, I could never do that. Like that freaks me out." And it's like her eyes are just like a little different. Like they're not level.
Perfect.
They're just slightly like, and I'm like, what's the problem?
I
One
love
little
that.
thing is what it's
That's
one little
flavor.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that is texture, my friend.
Absolutely.
I like a little like a
Give me a little bit of that.
Yeah, a crooked tooth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe like a couple like weirdly paralyzed nerves on the left side of their face, so when they smile, it's only like a half smile.
Yeah.
That's
oh yeah. I
cute.
mean, like I have those things myself. Everyone's got it, and those should not be your insecurities. Those should be your strengths.
A lazy eye,
Yeah.
some stretch
Oh,
marks.
100%.
Listen, I have to assume that they're going to accept me, right? And I'm no prize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My body looks like a roadmap, like a topography.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know what
man.
I'm saying? There's lines everywhere, scars.
See, I have that, but on my ass. I call it my tiger stripes.
Cute.
And because I was a fat ass kid. Like when I was born, like I was fucking 14 pounds. Like
No, you were not
I was.
14 pounds.
I'll
Your
show you
poor
pictures.
mother.
I know, I destroyed my mom.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I was
Tony's mom, you are
disastrous.
my hero.
Like, and you can look on my Instagram. You can find pictures of my mom. You would never realize.
I
That she
feel
had
so bad
like,
for her
she is-
pelvic wall. Oh my god.
Like after that, she was like, "Oh, cool, I'm good, like never having a kid again." But I was a
And then she
fat
had
ass bitch, and then
another
she had like
one.
another one,
Solid.
which was like completely unplanned. Sorry, Ben, you'll hear this and you'll find out you're an accident.
Right, because there's Mario, who's what, 2 years older than you,
A year and a half, and he was an accident too.
and then Ben is
Ben is 7
10
years old.
years older, or
Yeah.
10 years younger. I'm
He's-
sorry.
Yeah, he's 14 years younger than me.
Wow.
60. Man, he's a little trip. But no, I was fat ass, so I was a fat ass baby. So when I like thinned out, and you could find pictures of me, I was like thin as a twig somehow.
Right.
But then like I finally started working out, my ass got big again, and then I got all these like, nice little like tiger marks.
It
And I'm
happens.
brown, so like they're visible.
That's
Like,
great.
It's great. I call them my tiger stripes.
You know, my
Tony the
wife.
Tiger.
My wife comes from an athletic, gorgeous family, and they're all thin and tall and beautiful, and obviously those kids, her and her siblings went through
Yeah.
awkward phases as we
Sure.
all do, and she's got pictures to prove it. But what I always want to say is like, my beautiful wife, you don't know from awkward. You don't know
At all.
You don't know the pain.
You don't know the pain.
that I went
Listen,
through.
listen.
And then my awkward years were televised.
See, this is where you win out of everyone. You were like painted in the front, and it wasn't just like, oh, like you can find them like an interview. Like I saw this recent interview with James Corden where he was interviewing Meatloaf, and he's just like, oh,
Sounds like a great interview.
it was hilarious. But like you were prime every second, every stage of it. For me, thank God I had nothing on TV that time.
100%.
Like, and for me, I had awkward years, like probably to match yours, if not worse. Like I had
Not worse. I can't imagine.
curly afro-like hair that I wouldn't cut because I thought long hair was better. So it was like a Jew fro.
I went through the long hair phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And-
it's
and
bad.
it's bad.
Well, when you
So-
have ethnic hair, for the most part, like people like us, Jewish, Latin,
Yes.
I mean, some people are blessed and it just works, but for the most part,
Like
I
my
mean,
brother Mario, he always had great hair.
your brother Mario does have great hair, but for us, it's like it's a thick mane. I remember a little kiddo.
You never know what to do with it.
Yeah. I remember we were taking care of my friend's little kids, and I put one of them on my shoulders, and she kind of put her hand through my hair and said, she was like, it's like petting a dog.
Oh shit.
And I was like, it's so true.
But you know what? That means we'll have hair by the time we die.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
that's the truth of it, though.
I'm going
That's what's
gray.
great.
Are you?
No, I found a couple of grays so
Yeah.
far.
Well, you
But like we
know.
always find, I'm getting like the red beard. That's what I'm getting.
Ooh,
Like
yeah,
the like
welcome.
strays, and I'm like, oh, my Irish is showing. But no, like okay, to finish out my awkward years, thin wireframe glasses that were like
Harry Potter style?
no, not even like they were rectangle. Like and I have big eyes, so it looked fucking weird. I had braces that were like completely visible with like rubber bands, that shit.
Right.
So I could barely open my mouth. I had headgear. So I had that weird fucking like headgear. That like a fucking bar that like hangs around like a fucking planetary ring.
So it wasn't easy for young Tony Revelori.
No. And I had that for like 6 months walking everywhere. I couldn't eat any candy. I couldn't do anything.
No.
And there is not a single picture that exists of me at that time.
Well, yeah, you should burn them.
Oh, no. I
Get
never
rid of
even
them.
let anyone take any pictures.
You're smart.
Never. And my dad was so mad. He's like, come on, it's memories. I'm like, fuck these memories.
Yeah, my awkward years are in reruns. What now?
Where can you watch those reruns,
Oh,
Josh?
have you heard of Teen Nick? Now, how often do you find you pull from that in a method acting way for when you have to be insecure or like uncomfortable in a scene and you're like, all right, I'm just going to go to 12-year-old Tony Revelori. Boom. I'm
Every
full.
time.
I'm full.
I'm full. Like, it's like I haven't even made a dent into what that could give me.
It
that
just-
reservoir.
Yes.
Like, it is
Right.
deep.
Right.
It is deep. And you just take a little ingot and you just instantly feel. And the thing is, you still have your insecurities now. Though you don't need much of it. But, like, if you want to feel really insecure, you just think back to those days. Think back to the awkward things you've done. Like, I've definitely gone back and I'm like, if I could butterfly effect this shit, I totally would have done, like, different things.
And it's incredible how childhood memories are they're so vivid and they, because now as any adult who hopefully works on themselves in any respect, you sort of dilute any of these feelings because they still come up, obviously. But now I'm like, that's not reasonable and look at my
Right.
life and I'm so lucky and blah, blah, blah. I throw a lot of logic in the face of it.
Absolutely.
But at 13, I thought these feelings would kill me.
It's
they were so
like,
real.
The way I phrase it is when you're a kid, when you're a baby, you start out right next to a wall. So you can't tell anything. And as you grow older, you step back and back and back. And in your teenage years, you can see a bit of the painting, but you can only see that. By the time you're older, you can see the full scope of the painting. So even though you say that part is not great, you can see what other parts are great or what other things, and you have a full picture. So,
I think that's right.
right? And I think that's why as a kid, your insecurities are the end of the world.
Right.
Because there's nothing else.
Do you think, well, speaking of that, what's your process when you're approaching a character, when you're approaching a role? How do you get in the skin?
I recently figured that out. I usually used to say, like, I just go out and do it because that's what I thought I did. But I've been, like, as I'm getting older and doing more projects I'm, like, doing more plays, I realized what my actual process is. So I write, like, an essay for every character I do.
Really?
Yeah, and they're usually, like, 4 pages, where they're from, what they do, their fetishes, if they have it, like, weird shit like that. Like,
Okay.
just, I make myself a character. And then I let it go. And then I don't care about it. I don't need to read about it when I'm shooting or, maybe I'm still, like, I'll add a little thing if the director tells me or whatever. But what I realize is the day I show up on set or start pre-production or everything, I've already become that character without knowing it. Like, I've started to adopt certain characteristics of that.
But where does that come from? From just
From just
practicing,
like
running
from
lines?
from running lines, like
reading the script?
because I like to memorize all my lines before I even start the movie.
Wow,
So
bold.
right?
God, so much work.
Very much like a play. So I like that's why I think I like doing plays as well.
Makes
You have to
sense.
do it. But so for me, it also is evolving with the actors that you're acting with and things like that. But for me, I've already figured out what personality this person has, what characteristics he shouldn't have, what ticks, and I just slightly adopt them to the point that I'm never not doing them on set. And by the time we cut, a bit of that has stayed with me. So I've always grown with the roles I take. So on Budapest, I was a shy, kid who was trying to prove himself because all these Oscar winners were on there. So the character kind of adopted that, where I was trying to prove myself, and I was gaining more confidence as the movie goes on, and I was gaining more confidence as the filming went on.
Did you embrace, because I've always heard acting teachers talk about this, is embracing the reality of the feelings that are going on and figuring out how to
Yes.
make that applicable to your
100%.
character.
So, I was still nervous. I still had to prove myself every single time. And, not just being the only ethnic person there, but being the youngest person there and being a lead there. So that kind of took on. And after that, I took a bit of Zero's confidence with me. And then I went to do this other movie where it was a loudmouth character who, screamed and wanted to have sex, and then that was in Dope. And after that film, I had a lot of confidence and bravado to have a personality, and I kind of broke out of my shell of being shy and became more talkative because of that role. And it slowly grew like that, taking piece by piece of my characters like that, which is strange to me. So that's kind of like my process, which I've really started to kind of get into now.
Well, let's talk about Grand Budapest, because you were what, 16?
I was 16 when I shot it, yeah.
And the way you, let's go back to the beginning. So you auditioned for this role, and your
Yes.
brother auditions for it.
Yes. So
Okay.
we both auditioned for it.
And what's your understanding of Wes Anderson and that whole world to that point?
I'd seen Darjeeling Limited, and I'd really liked it. I'd seen Bottle Rocket,
Okay.
and I was like, cool movie. But like,
So
I
not like the most popular ones either.
yeah.
Yeah, sort of the
I'd seen them on like
fringe Anderson
TNT and
movies.
stuff like that. And
So you weren't totally aware of the cachet of
yes, I didn't know him.
the Anderson effect.
I didn't know the Anderson universe. I didn't know how beloved he was. I've known of him, and I think he's a great filmmaker, but I wasn't aware of what his
hype.
impact is.
Yeah.
Yes, the hype. So, I go into this audition. It's Untitled Wes Anderson project, and every time you see an Untitled something, you're like, oh, this guy must be someone great. So, we did it. My brother and I go in. We go to the audition.
And are you practicing with each other, or are you kind of having your own private process?
they didn't give us the script. They gave us 14 pages as we arrived on the audition.
How awful.
Right?
Oh, God.
But everyone else had no one to practice with, no one to read against. So my brother and I would read with each other. So I would read Monsieur Gustave with him, and he would do it to me. So we were able to kind of practice playing it with someone else, as opposed to those guys who read it and just continually memorized the lines and then went in not knowing what it's like to read with someone else.
Right.
But no, my brother and I, like, we read together all the time. Even if we go out for the same roles. We've done that since we were kids. But the funny thing is, like, you know, you see these big projects and, you know, you're like, oh, we won't get it. We're coming to an audition. We can show we did good, but, you know, we'll never get it. And a fellow Nick star, Avin Jogia, auditioned, and we saw him in the audition room. And we'd known of him. You know, he was the brown guy who was, like, getting jobs that we wanted to get.
And he's so gorgeous.
And he's beautiful.
And he's nice, which is the worst
He's
part.
so sweet.
He's a really good guy.
He's so sweet. And he really is very talented.
But I know
but like, you know, and I had nothing to my name at that point. My brother had a little bit more credits. So in my mind, I was like, cool, he's got the part. You know, that's when you walk into an audition room, sometimes your confidence loses when you see, I'm sure if you walked in a confidence room and you saw...
If I saw Miles Teller in there,
Right.
not that he has to audition anymore,
Right,
I'd be
exactly.
like, okay,
But
I'll
like-
just go fuck myself.
Exactly.
Or even like Jason Ritter or Michael Angarano. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like you
I don't
got.
know about Michael Angarano.
Oh, dude.
Like, I love Michael Angarano.
He
But I feel
crushes.
like you and Michael Angarano.
We used to go up all the time for things, and I would walk in and I'd be like, well, Mike, have fun doing this part. You're gonna kill it. Like another nice guy.
It's like, I mean,
Damn
but
it,
that's
I wish
the
I
thing.
could hate him.
So I know. So I mean, but like, also, I feel like.
So you're not psyched
but
out.
I'm not like, we're not psyched out, but we're also like, okay, cool, we'll go and audition. This will be fun, you know?
Right.
So we go in an audition. My brother and I kill it. We go.
But you know, so how do you know that you kill? You just knew walking
we just
away.
like
You're
had like
you
a
did
feeling.
what you wanted to do.
We did what we like, and the thing is, we knew killing it doesn't mean booking it.
Right.
So like killing it means like this cast director now loves us. Like the cast director Doug Abel and his casting director here in California. She was like, we love you guys. You guys are so great. So it's like, great. Like, you'll think of us for the next thing.
And isn't that so much a part of the work? Because as actors, it's so
Yeah.
easy to just feel as though if you don't book the job, you lose.
You lose,
But the
but
reality
it's-
is, you'll never know when
Unle-
that casting director remembers you 3 years later.
Exactly.
For the right thing.
For the right thing. Because you might have had the wrong look or you wasn't old enough. And 3 years down the line, you're perfect for this other one because you're the perfect age or
But
whatever.
good thing you were perfect for the Wes Anderson movie with every famous person in it ever.
I know. So
So you beat your brother.
So then the happy and sad part of it all was the full story is my grandfather died a week after the audition.
Wow.
And it was so sad and I remember, and I was very, very close with my grandfather. He gave me, I'm very into watches. So one of my uncles passed away and gave his watch to my grandfather, and my grandfather passed it on to me. So I was very close with my grandfather. Like, I would hear his stories a million times and go talk to him, even though there was a slight language barrier and I didn't speak the greatest Spanish. But I loved him, and he was like, your time's coming. Because at that point, you know, my brother had an episode stint on Law & Order and Weeds and this. And I'm like, okay, so even if I don't book it, he has a better shot of it.
Right.
And also, he's like legal 18 or close to legal 18 at that point.
And not taking anything away from those shows, but isn't it incredible when you're not working and you're looking at other people, you're like, he just did 3 episodes of CSI.
Yeah, and you're just like,
he's on the
fuck,
top of the
he's
fucking
like-
mountain.
Right now.
Like, God.
For right now, like,
Yeah.
it definitely works that
He
way.
just did an under 5 on Law and Order.
Exactly.
I'm so freaking jealous.
So, you know, my father flies. No. So then we get a callback, and they tell us it is down to you and your brother. No one else is auditioning. One of you two will book it.
God.
Okay.
It's like, it feels
like-
Shakespearean.
It really was. And the thing is, I wish they didn't say that. I wish it said, like, only you two are auditioning here in this screening, but we're still auditioning kids in
Right.
Lebanon and this
So
and
you
that,
weren't
know?
so pitted against each other.
Exactly. But, like, here, it was like, oh, shit. Like, one of us has got it. Like,
Right.
like, no matter what, we've done that before, but there's always been, like, a third or a fourth person. So if Mario books it or I book it, we can put off that, like, I'm still glad you booked it over that guy.
Gotcha.
But here, it's like, there's no other scapegoat to put that anger into.
So then
it's
what?
like, so then we go into the audition. It's an audition/interview, and he interviews each of us for 30 minutes.
With,
and like
with Wes.
Wes wasn't there, but he sent in questions and that he wanted answered.
What were some of the questions?
It was like,
Was it
so
like this?
It was a little bit like this.
Do you want to
it's
know
like,
about
so it's
your
like,
tiger stretch marks?
Yeah, exactly. And my cholesterol.
Solid. We'll get back to that.
He was there, right? We ended with cholesterol. But he was asking, like, what's your personality? What do you think? Are you a shy kid? And, my personality was, I was in the shadow of my brother at that time. So he I think, fell for that. And after that, my dad was in Guatemala with my grandfather bearing him. And Wes or my agent calls and says, yo, Wes wants to fly you out to Paris. Yes or no? I'm like, of course. But
I suppose I can make time for that.
my dad isn't here to say yes and, whatever. So it was very weird. His producer calls my dad in Guatemala, like over like call collect. And like and my dad's like, I'm not there. This is very strange. You want him to fly alone to Paris.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about it. And they convinced my dad, like, he's obviously not going to say no. But he, like, as a dutiful parent, he's like, I want you to be an actor, but at the same time, I want you to be, like, a fine human being. So I don't want you to get, like, fucked over by some casting weird couch or some shit like that.
And was your dad familiar with Wes Anderson?
He was. He knew how big this opportunity was.
Right.
But he was still like, I'm still going to be a good parent and not just say, I'm a stage parent.
blindly.
Like, go do, whatever. So, like, he
Go
dutifully
book those
did his
jobs,
job.
honey.
Yeah. Sweetie.
Go work for it.
So he was like, I don't know. And they convinced him, because obviously he wasn't against it too much, but, like, convinced him. I flew out to Paris. It was a 14-hour flight there. I stayed for 17 hours and flew back 14 hours.
Business class?
No, economy.
What the fuck?
West flew me economy.
Oh, way to go. I got a bone to pick with.
Everyone's got a bone to pick. But then
Economy. God.
it was economy comfort, I think. So it was
Economy
something.
Plus?
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
But another untold story of that flight.
Yeah.
I was an unaccompanied minor. There was another unaccompanied minor who only spoke French, who was 17 and I was 15 at the time, flying out to meet Wes.
For your part.
To meet for the part. And she was not flying out for the part. She was just flying to Paris from LA. And our plane got stuck on the tarmac for whatever reason. And we stayed there for like 3 hours. And I had no one to talk to. So I Google Translate with this girl, talked for a while. And slept with her on the plane.
Stop it.
I'm not joking.
You joined the Mile High Club on your way to get the biggest role of your life?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
How great was that?
Stop it. Where? Okay, let's get the play-by-play. At what point do you type into Google Translate, wanna fuck?
See, that's the thing. You don't ask wanna fuck. Like, we were talking and obviously we were vibing because she was like, like it wasn't like, oh, cool, we're just having a conversation here. It was like, oh, like flirty little like hand touches. So I'm like, okay, she's in it.
And she's an
like,
older woman.
She's an older woman.
17,
but I don't think she knew how old I was, which was thankful. And then, like by the end of it, after the 3 hours, we had had a rapport, and like I spoke Spanish a little bit, and she spoke French, so like we were trying to figure out how to have a conversation there, and it was fun. And then she made the first move, which was the first time I'd ever encountered that.
Sounds like an Ivan Reitman movie. Like this is just
and like she grabbed my hand, and I was like, okay, and I was completely nervous, but I was riding the high. I was like, okay,
yeah,
I'm
you were
flying to
in
Paris. I'm going to get this role. I'm like, this girl's feeling me. I'm like, this is what Hollywood is like.
yeah. You're like, my life has changed.
My life has changed already. So I I grab her hand back, I put my arm over her. I lean over, we kiss. And there's a third.
Is anyone watching this interaction?
Okay, so there's a third unaccompanied minor next to me. And she's like 7.
Oh no!
And I was in the middle seat.
You're making out in front of the 7-year-old?
Yeah. And
Great.
then we had those weird the terrible small blankets they give to people on these long flights to go to sleep.
Oh, here we go.
So we put it over our bodies and we were rubbing each other's thighs and shit and And she like went for the Rocket Man.
Oh my gosh. Is there like a flight attendant coming by being like,
Yes, because
listen,
we're unaccompanied minors, so they like came by often, and so she was like, she pointed to the restroom, and she was like, "Yeah, you and me," and I was like, "Perfect. This is exactly how porn depicts
you were like,
it."
I suppose I could make it.
I could make it.
I've only got 12 hours to kill.
Exactly.
I suppose I could have the greatest experience of my life. I'm so jealous.
So we get on this, we get into the bathroom, like we sneak in, we do it, clothes come off, yada yada.
Wow. Clothes come off in the bathroom.
Like like it's like pants
Just
go
enough.
down, like just enough, and
one thing I've always wondered, did the bathroom smell?
a little bit.
Yeah, of course
Little
it
bit.
did. All right.
But
that
I think
kills
she was
some
French.
mood.
She was okay with it.
Wow.
So we go at it for like a good minute before, and then the flight attendant's like, "We know what you guys are doing. Please just put on your pants. Go back to your seats, please. Thank you very much." And
Was it a French airline?
I think it was Air Berlin.
All right. The Germans are down with it too.
Yeah,
They know
Germans are
what's
cool
up.
with it.
They're cool.
I'm pretty sure they knew instantly when we walked in, but they were like, "Let them have their fun. He's 15. It won't take longer than 30 seconds."
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow I was like far too nervous because I got in there.
Somehow. No big surprise there, Tony. I mean, Jesus.
And then we went back and, kept like touching and making out as the plane went on. And then I never saw her again.
Wow. That's a perfect relationship.
Right?
That's unbelievable.
I want to marry that girl.
So you lose your virginity on an Air Berlin flight, or close to it.
Close, yeah.
You lose your 30,000 feet virginity.
My
on the-
30,000 feet virginity.
And now you're sitting across from Wes Anderson, and what are you thinking?
Fuck. Don't fuck this up. And because they were telling me a bit of the cast, and I was like, oh my God, holy shit.
Give me the highlights. Are they like Harvey Keitel?
Harvey, Ray Fiennes. They told me Jeff Goldblum, Jason Schwartzman. They told me Saoirse Ronan. They told me
Jesus.
Bob Balaban. They told me Edward Norton. They told me
So only the best actors alive. Go on.
right Tilda Swinton. No. Before it was Tilda Swinton, it was Angela Lansbury.
Awesome. Murder, She Wrote, baby.
Murder, She Wrote. She was going to play the older woman wrong.
So what is Wes?
And before F. Murray Abraham, it was I think Dustin Hoffman.
Sheesh. And Bill Murray.
And Bill Murray. They told me about Bill Murray as well. But that one I kind of knew because, like, obviously Bill Murray's going to be in it.
And what does Wes ask you? Do you have to do the scene in front of him?
Yeah, we read the whole entire script together.
Just like a table read type setting.
We act out the entire thing for like a good hour and a half.
And he plays the other parts.
And someone else. His associate producer at that time, Octavia Picel. Shout out to you. You were amazing. Who is now a co-producer on Isle of Dogs, which is great. I saw it last night. Fucking fantastic. And she was reading Saoirse's parts, or Agatha, the character, and like Wes, like, because she was a little bit older, and Wes was like, okay, I want to, like, in the movie, the character's very nervous, but with his girlfriend, he's very confident. And he told me that, and he put me right next to this girl, and Octavia's gorgeous. She's like a tall French-American girl who's beautiful. And of course, I'm nervous.
Well, at this point, you've got your plane experience. You're like,
Right.
I'm about to make this 2 out of 2.
2 out of 2.
What's up,
but like,
Octavia?
still like nervous and things. And Wes puts me next to her and he's like, I want to see you be confident. He didn't say that, but I could tell
Right.
that's what he wanted to do. So, I'm reading this and I put my arm around her and, I like completely grab her hands and hold it near me. And I read this scene and he was like, great. And at that point, he still didn't tell me I had the job. But we went out to dinner, which was a great place in France.
And does he regale you with stories? What's the interaction like? Because
he was very much about making me feel comfortable.
and does he ask you a lot about you?
He asked me a lot about me, like, my childhood, what's my brother's like, my parents, things like that. Like, how do I feel?
It's funny. I was interviewing Stamos, and he was talking about Tom Hanks, and I feel like great artists like this have a tendency to take a deep interest
in other people.
Laser in, because they're stealing in the best way possible. They're stealing experience.
It's 100%. And I think it is that thing of, I want to know you. I want to, like, everything about you. Just tell me right now. and Wes is so focused and into it that when he has his interest on you, there's no stopping it. And every answer leads to 7 more questions that he asks you, and he's going a mile a minute.
And you must be flattered, right? I mean, there's
Of
no
course.
greater feeling.
I mean, I feel so flattered, but then I'm also, my own insecurities are like, but why is he asking me these things?
Right.
Like, is it because he wants to find something bad? Is it like, oh man, I didn't grow up, rich or anything, so do I feel like I have to answer like I come from a little bit of money.
Right.
But like, and that's the insecurities. But he was completely with it, finding the questions to make me feel comfortable, and it was great.
Did you ever find, 3 months in, you're shooting the film now, and he, in the middle of a scene, pulls you over to the side and goes, Tony, I want you to pull from 10th grade when that girl made fun of your tiger stretch marks. Like, were you like, oh my God, he remembered that from dinner?
Oh
Like,
my God.
Did he ever use it? Nah, I'm assuming
No.
No.
No, he never used it.
Okay, second follow-up question. What did he order for dinner?
So we went to this restaurant in France. I forget what it's called.
'Cause
but I
he's a
went there
real food
recently.
guy.
He's a food guy. So the only thing you can order is how you'd like your steak done and how many plates. That's all you get. So it's a steak fry place. They don't do anything else.
But they
Nothing
crush it
else.
at that.
But it was like, and it has this green sauce on it that's fucking incredible. And it was like, again, I didn't grow up rich, so like my fancy thing.
Yo,
was,
where the A1 at, son?
Like, yeah, I was like, where's my fancy thing is like going to, I don't know, fucking Applebee's. Applebee's was fancy to me, but like
still
going
is.
there, I was like, oh my God. Like, this is rich people. This is like rich white people shit. And I was like, thank you for letting me enjoy it. And then like the thing that made him the saddest was like dessert came, and he's a big dessert guy, so he was like, what are you feeling for dessert? And and I'm like, oh no, I'm good, thank you. He's like, I don't usually eat desserts, which I don't. And he's like, why don't you eat desserts? And I'm like, oh, I'm allergic to chocolate and peanut butter, so most of these things have chocolate and peanut butter. So I usually just never even order dessert. And he's like, well, we're going to find you a dessert. And he goes there and he looks at the menu. Everything is chocolate and peanut butter. So he's like, can you get like a bunch of strawberries with like sugar poured on it? That's a delicacy here in France. And they were like, oui. So they get me like a full cup of strawberries poured like with this like weird crystal sugar that was amazing.
So if you had to boil it down to one or two things in your experience while working with Wes that you would say what makes him great, or like what it is that makes him such a auteur and have such a clear vision, could you do that?
Number one, I think, is the script.
Right, it's all in the words.
The first 15 pages of the script, besides typos, did not change in any way from the first draft.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And it is so visual that you know every step of the way without it feeling intrusive in your performance.
Visual as far as like the articulation on the page.
Yes, like he jumps over this and he walks on, and that you can picture it, or you can picture a version of it. So you never don't know what it wants.
Right.
And that also leads into he knows what he wants. And then number two, he just does not stop. So you feel like momentum is your best friend. Because for us, if we just finished this scene right now, he would come in, he would not stop cameras, he would not stop anything. No one would come in for makeup unless we had to reset a prop or do anything like that. No cuts. Or like he would tell the prop guys, have it prop ready so we can just go in for another take. And he'd come in for like 15 seconds and tell you, so I want you to do it, but I want you to like go a little bit faster and do this, or like, give notes. And then he's like, okay, everyone's still in it, and action. So there's no cut, no like stop of that momentum. And you do 40 takes in like 15, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And it's incredible.
Do you feel as though in what I've heard about Fincher and what have you, like guys like that who have you do so many takes, it's really just to stop you from acting, so that you get so exhausted of the choices that we all inevitably make on your way
until it just becomes natural.
It's so natural and conversational that at a certain point it's like,
I don't think it's that for him. I think he's also trying to play with things as well. Because it's never big differences in his things, but I always say he's got at least 4 different versions of that movie that he could have edited with different performances. Like the first 10 are a more muted version, but like with quicker dialogue, slower dialogue, and then the second 20 or 10 to 20 takes are a little bit more high-strung energy.
So gradations,
Yes, and so he has like different like versions of characters as well.
choices.
Different choices that he's come up with and he's trying to figure out as well.
Okay, so not to play favorites, but obviously you're with a dream team on something like Grand Budapest.
Yep.
Was there one actor in particular where you're acting opposite them and you would just get lost? You'd be like, yo, you're good. Like, yo,
Like,
they're
honestly,
good.
honestly, like Ray Fiennes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he had the most scenes with me, and it's like every actor there is fantastic. But I feel like we created a bond on that movie, playing these 2 characters, and we would just every second that wasn't rolling, we would keep that going no matter what, which was amazing and so cool. But like I had great experiences with everyone. I loved working with Jeff Goldblum. He's just so magnanimous, and you're waiting on every word he says because it's just it's just his
Tony Revelori.
life finds a way. Tony Revelori. Oh, this Tony, so beautiful. Look at him. He's so good. Oh, good man.
But
Good man.
isn't that interesting too? That inevitably, like Jeff Goldblum, who's such a great actor too, as many actors, they sort of do a thing.
Yes,
Like he's
they
doing the
kinda become
Goldblum
themselves.
thing.
Yeah.
We made a movie together.
We did make a movie together. It's called San Bernardino Bound. Take the 10.
Take the 10.
On
Don't worry,
Netflix.
you haven't seen it.
We did make a movie together. That's
made
how we
a
met.
movie.
That's how we met.
And we had fun.
It was fun. It was fun.
You booked Spider-Man right at the beginning of making that movie.
Right at the beginning, like right as I sign on to do this movie with you.
And I remember. Do you remember what I told you when we were making it?
Don't get big headed.
Because no. Do you think I would say that? Look at
No.
me. I said because the element of the movie would allowed for us to improvise, and because it was a straight comedy, and we had people like Andy Samberg and all these
Fred
like,
Armisen.
like incredibly funny people, and then you were gonna go do this Marvel movie, and I'm like, have fun here because you're not gonna be able, you're
That's
not gonna be
true,
allowed
yeah.
to have fun there. And not,
It's 100%.
I mean,
like, and you do have fun on these sets because it's great, and it's like, oh, wonderful, your 12-year-old self. It's like Spider-Man walks in. Oh my God, he's in the costume.
no, it's incredibly cool.
But like,
of
it's
course.
very, very difficult
It's
to work on those sets because you wait a long time. You do this. You can't improvise. You can't like
It's
throw
specific. It's a machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't. I remember hearing Matthew McConaughey talk about the movies he did before he sort of had his resurgence, where he just
Right, the
became
rom-com
the man.
king.
Yeah, and he said, you can't drop anchor in those movies. You kind of have to allow them to sort of float at a certain level.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to be in service of the project at all times.
Absolutely.
And so when you try to make it about you, I heard Ted Danson was interviewed by Mark Maron the other day, and he was saying that he did 4 years of CSI, and it was really hard because he's like, my instinct would be to put a joke in a certain place or to give it a button to a scene.
But it's like it's a no thing.
Well, because you don't want the audience laughing when they need to be following along.
Yeah.
And they need to be retaining the
That's
information.
why, like, for me, like, thankfully, I think John was also trying to figure things out, and they had they were okay with me, like, figuring out buttons and things, and I'm decent at improvising, not as good as you.
Oh, please,
maestro.
come on.
But I definitely put in some things and put in some, like, twang and spunk and things like that. But I remember there was this one scene where John Watt came up to me, and it was a scene where Tom Holland, who plays Peter Parker, walks into the party with Jacob Batalon, who plays Ned Leeds. And I start, making fun of them over the microphone because I'm DJing. And the director's like, okay, we got a couple of the line ones. Now give us something meaner. And when and he looked into my eyes and said, when I say mean, I want you to like make them leave crying. I'm like, hey buddy, I was made fun of as a kid. I'm great at clapbacks. You want them to cry, I can get them to cry. Will it be too mean? And he's like, no, I want you to go fucking full force. I was like, all right, I got you. So I leave. he leaves, and I say a couple of lines, and the extras are supposedly laughing and stuff. No one laughs. It's like so mean. Like, and I go really hard on their characters, of course, but like things they have, like insecurities and things like that, and I go really hard.
You go after the moms.
Oh, I go after like the mom. I go after Aunt May. All these different things, and
Right.
and everyone's like, well, and then the one I'll say here, so for your exclusive audience, is there was one. It's like that's not Spider-Man. That's Ned. Where'd you guys come from? Indiana Jones and the Last Buffet? Because he's a bit of a chubbier kid. And everyone, like, at that point, everyone was like, oh, shit. And I was like, cut. We're cutting, John. Like, I can't go any more meaner than that. Like, let's stop. And he was like, bro, that was too mean. And I went and I gave both actors hugs. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. And John's like, it's my fault. But, like, Tony, I didn't think you were actually going to go. I'm like, I told you I can make them cry.
He asked you to make them
asked
cry.
And he was like,
what do you
just
want?
dial it back from, like, a 10 to, like, a 3. I'm like, I can do that. No problem.
But how do you feel? And I think you do a really good job at this, because I know for me, walking on set when I did Red Dawn, and it was Chris Hemsworth and all these incredible stunt guys,
Yeah.
and this whole world that I'm not comfortable in, and it very much became like a boys' club, and in that sense, like, because I know what
Yeah.
my bag of tricks are and where I shine, and being able to put in a funny joke somewhere, or
Right.
even like certain dramatic stuff where I feel like this is definitely in my wheelhouse. I can play, but in that sense, being on that set, I remember feeling quite like, let me just be in service to the script and sort of act as if, because I don't make sense in
I've
that
gotten
world.
more confident in different areas and different things to voice what I want, to voice my opinions, to do things like that in every, like, comedy, drama, this, that, voice what I want, my opinions and things like that, whether they be taken or not. But I've definitely gotten more comfortable in saying, like, no, fuck this. I'm going to, like, say what I want to say. If you take it, then great. If you don't, then it's fine.
But do you feel comfortable?
Yes.
You do now.
I do now.
I can see that.
I do now. Like, and there was still a sense, like, even last year I worked on a movie called Long Dumb Road with Jason Mantzoukas, who's fucking hilarious. We went to Sundance and it was amazing.
Yeah, he's the truth.
He's genuinely the best improviser I've ever been with.
That's fine. We made a movie together too, Tony. I don't know.
Oh,
if
I know
you
we did.
Yeah.
I know we did.
It's quite
here's
a
the
lot of
thing.
improvising
Here's
on
the
our
thing.
movie.
You're
wasn't
number
there?
2.
Thank you so much.
3.
What?
Stephen Merchant. Fuck. I'm sorry.
All right, great.
Stephen Merchant. Don't like, Stephen Merchant's great. He created The Office.
But is he happy? Yeah, he's probably
He's always
stoked.
super happy.
Think about those Office residuals.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, okay.
Okay, but like, it's like working with him. Like, I've gotten more confident. Even on that set, I was still like not okay to voice my opinions as much as I like could have been. So, I've definitely gotten more confident in saying, like, no, I'm gonna put my foot down. I'm gonna say what I have to say, whether it's taken or not. But I'm gonna say it.
So in closing, what do you think? What do you think of the scene? Because I feel like you're so much better at like working this business than I am. Because I've become a little bit more disillusioned and curmudgeonly. And you fucking love a good party, Tony Revelori. You love a good schmooze. You got connections. You got stories. I love it.
Oh man, I just love going to these parties for the free alcohol.
Solid. You steer clear of the fuckboys?
Oh yeah.
Have you become a fuckboy?
No.
You better not.
I have a friend group, and we're a tight-knit group, and we're called the Fellas. That's what we call ourselves.
That sounds like fuckboys,
Classy.
Tony.
No, it's not.
The Fellas.
The Fellas.
The fact that you have a title for your group.
That's our like Instagram title, or not Instagram.
Instagram? You guys have a hashtag?
No. Our on your phone, you can like your group name.
Oh, your group chat.
That's our group name. It's not like, and trust me, we're like, every single one of us is in a relationship. One of us is having a kid. So like, we're anything but fuckboys.
The Fellas.
The Fellas. But like,
Jesus.
I like going, and the thing is, I just like it going to see people I either know or make better connections, or just like, cause I like working in the industry.
The schmooze.
So I'm like, and also the truth of it is, I have to, because for me,
you have to do
for
that.
me as a brown person, I have it 3 times as hard, 4 times as hard as any other white person.
Why?
Because I want to
There's
be a
less
lead actor.
roles.
There's less roles. I want to be a lead actor, and okay, I'll phrase it this way. There was a very, very, very famous director.
I know who it is, but we won't say.
Yeah. that I went out for a part, and the movie's coming out, and I went to audition for it, and I went far, and the reason I was told I couldn't do it was because I was exotic looking. I was like, oh, okay, and the truth of it is, I went into the, and I heard, because I know that director's daughter, that I came off as desperate, and I told her, well, here's the problem. If I'm not desperate, I won't ever get a role. If I'm desperate, I won't get a role. So I'm in a catch-22 situation, because for every white guy, there are 30 white guys for every one me, and they're and my level. So there's a Ty Sheridan, Cody Smith McPhee's, Timothy Chalamet, Lucas Hedges, and they all have better credits, better well-known, better box office. So okay,
And they're good.
and they're fantastic. And of course, I've met a lot of them. They are sweethearts,
Right.
Such nice guys. But for me, I have to not only convince them that I am the better of all these white guys, but it is better to go ethnic. And that's a decision people have to make. And it's 10 African American people to 1 me, because they've accepted African American leads way more than they have brown people. So I have to go in and I have to call the casting director and say, so what is the feedback? Tell me what I can do. Oh, he didn't like that audition tape? Well, let me send you a self tape with something else. I'll get what he wants. Oh no. And by the end of it, it's them telling me. And I actually saw the director, and I met the director, and again, very, very famous director. And I went up to him and I said, hi, how are you doing? I know your daughter, yada, yada, yada. I auditioned, and he's like, yeah, you did great. I'm like, now, can I ask you a question? You said, and I'm not going to get mad at you because you have your vision as a director, and that's completely fine. But when you were looking at the role, who did you picture? Did you ever picture a brown guy? And again, feel free. He's like, I didn't know what I was picturing. I'm like, be honest. It's like, why was I not cast? It's like, what about me was wrong? Was my audition, like, did I act wrong? And he's like, no, you were wrong. Okay. The adaptation that it's in, he's a
lot of
quirky.
balls, Tony.
Oh man.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And
Were
it's
you
like,
just totally like blacked out with confidence? You were like, I need to know.
at this point I was like, fuck it. If I don't say this now, no one's ever going to fucking say it. So this is my time to say it with the movements happening. And I really, like, again, I didn't attack him. I just wanted him to realize why my desperation is there. So I asked him, so I'm like, the character, he's a quirky character. Do I not look quirky? No, you look quirky. Okay, am I not good looking enough for the character? Because he does have to be slightly charming. No, you're charming and you're good looking. I'm like, okay, so you said I was exotic looking. What exactly? Like, I want you to pinpoint what exactly it is that is too exotic for me. Is it my nose? Is it my eyes? Is it my body type? And he was like, no. I'm like, so tell me exactly what it is. And he's like, it's your skin tone. I'm like, so you were picturing someone else that wasn't my skin tone? And he's like, I mean, and I'm like, you see, and I told him, I'm like, you see, I don't want you to, by all means, do what you want to do. I'm not telling you to do it because obviously you do such a fucking fantastic job, but I want you to realize why I had to work 3 times as hard as every other person there. You have to realize why once in an audition, I had an audition the next day for this show called Homecoming, and I can name it. And the character is Hispanic, Walter Cruz, played by Oscar Isaac in this podcast version of it. So it's Hispanic. I'm thinking I have a better shot than most people. Oscar's Guatemalan, I'm Guatemalan, the character is Hispanic, I'm Hispanic, I'm, similar-esque to the part. So I'm like, but still, I'm a brown guy, I'm going to work twice as hard. I listened to all 15 hours of the podcast, season 1 and 2.
Well, it's great.
And it's fantastic.
It's so good.
You've heard it.
Yeah, I love
it's
it.
fantastic. I've read every serialized novel about it because they had a little thing, a serialized thing. I read that all within 15 hours of getting the audition and memorizing 8 pages of line, going in there, killing it. And when I walked into that audition room, every other person in that audition room was black. Everybody else. There was not a single other Hispanic person or white person. And I get it. You want to make it ethnic. That's great. But are there not enough Hispanic people? So it showed I still had to work harder than them. And they still ended up casting them because I was the only brown person. And for the one brown person to convince, saying all these other ethnicities are wrong or wrong for the part and I'm the best is so difficult.
What would have made you feel better walking into that room if it had been an even amount of, different ethnicities? So African American, white, Latin. If it had only been Latin,
I feel
because
like
then
I would
that
have been
presents its
yeah,
own thing
but,
too,
but
right?
I would have absolutely. Then it's like okay, cool, may the best Hispanic win. But I just wanted them to try harder to make it ethnic. Like in their minds, they had
Try
already
harder to be true to what had already
true,
been written.
Not even that, but like just
But the character's
character's
name, as you
Hispanic.
said.
I mean, it's Walter Cruz.
Right.
He's a Hispanic character, and I wanted.
Well, Terry Crews. No, I'm kidding.
That's true. Well, different spelling, but yes.
Yes, you're right.
But like I wanted them to try to audition a couple of more Hispanic people.
Right.
And there are great Hispanic people out here, but you always see them on Hispanic soap operas, so you can't see what they actually can do in dramatic roles because you resign them to being, dramatic, weird actors on soap operas. So it sucks. So that's why it's very hard to break out of that. But then you had already resigned it that this role was going to be a black character.
But do you think that when you talked to this director and he kind of gave you an honest, because we all have these suspicions, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because usually the feedback is some cryptic
Bullshit.
something, or it's them trying to be nice, and understandably so. They can only say so much.
Yes.
Because people can only, people short circuit with too much honesty.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And,
oh yeah.
And usually they'll say it was great, but there was an age problem, there was a look problem,
Yeah.
So getting the real deal Holyfield that you got
Yeah.
from this director, did it embolden you? Did it make you for a second want to fucking give up?
No,
Did it
for
make
me
you...
it was more like, for me now I've educated.
Right.
Now I've educated, and hopefully for your next thing, you won't be true, but you'll realize everyone should be equal. You shouldn't have a preconceived notion unless you're doing Martin Luther King Jr. or Frida Pinto, or not Frida Pinto, Frida, the artist Frida. It's like those you cast right. You're not going to cast a white guy or a Hispanic guy to play Martin Luther King Jr. By all means. I mean, if the character is black, cast it black. If that's what is written and you had envisioned in your mind when you wrote it, great. But this character had no reason to be any ethnicity. He could have been anything. So why not have a vision in your head and just say and wipe out half of the people auditioning for you because you wanted to be a white guy and miss out on someone great. Whether or not I was the best, I don't care if the person who booked it over me because he's the best for the part. I care that I just wanted a fair shot.
Keep the net wide open.
Absolutely.
Right.
And, then the director, like, he thought about it and he talked about it and we had a good conversation about it. And I was like, again, like, you do you. I don't care. But I just want you to realize, I wanted him to know, having heard that I was desperate in his eyes, I was like, I want you to realize why I'm that way.
Well, it sounds as though you were willing to have the conversation as sort of a representative for people that will never get to meet that director.
Absolutely.
And the guys coming up who are like you and different, but struggle with similar sort of challenges.
Right.
That who else is going to be the voice in the ear of a director who's probably doesn't get that experience often?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, what do you think about, we're sort of living in this ever-changing time and this real deluge of the old bullshit, and there's such a diversity initiative in entertainment and not entertainment alone in so many different areas. And do you find as though things are getting better, that we're making a change for the better?
It's getting better, but I think we've leaned too far to the left. And I don't mean that in any political sense. I'm just saying that as a direction. We have leaned so far that people are forcing diversity, which is great. Yeah. Let's make that diversity hire a thing, or not diversity hire, but like hire diversity and women as well. But I don't want to be given a part if I'm not the best for it. I feel like it's for me. I want to make sure that everyone has an equal. I'm an equalist. I want everyone to have an equal opportunity.
Well, it's an uncomfortable time. I mean,
and
in
it's
that
great, yeah.
all change is inherently uncomfortable, right? Because we're
Absolutely.
deviating from the norms.
And
We're
the thing
deviating from what we're
is,
used to.
it's great. And my little brother, 7-year-old, he's an actor as well, and he does well. But for him, there's no question about ethnicities or anything like that. In people's minds, when they write children now, they write children completely open-ended, colorblind, and I think it's great. So with his generation growing up, it'll grow with him. For our generation, it'll still be it'll get a little bit better, but we'll just have to wait until time changes a little bit, which is it's great, but also at the same time, you hope things change and you hope things move forward, and they are moving forward, which is great. But it is a thing that it's like, why didn't it happen in the past?
Well, I mean, I heard
I mean, 'cause
Obama talk about this, President Obama.
President Obama, you're
Because,
friends with him?
no big deal. He mentioned Drake and Josh once.
What?
Yeah, he was doing a speech and he was like, folks, I know what the kids like. They like SpongeBob. They like Josh and Drake. I was like, oh my God. And he said my name first.
Said your name first.
And I was like, because
Oh my
it kind of has a
God.
ring to it.
Has Oprah ever mentioned Drake and Josh?
No, dare to dream. And I heard him say, that is unfortunately with change and government especially, but he's like, things move at such a snail's pace, and yet inevitably, much like a ship, if you are to alter the course even a degree to the left or to the right,
You'd be
over
completely-
time,
yeah.
you're in a completely different space. And I think about like my mom and our parents,
Yeah.
sort of their generation was dealing with segregation
Absolutely.
and the rights of all people. And to me, I feel like for our generation, it's been so much embracing sexuality and
Yes.
and different gender types and sort of the way that people want to what's the word? It's basically the way that people want to be represented in the
absolutely.
world. And, and I hope that when I have kids, it will never be a question to them that
No,
gay
absolutely.
people would be married or not. Like, it'll just be
Exactly.
second
It's just-
nature.
absolutely.
But if you think only 30, 40 years ago, there
was a huge deal.
there were separate bathrooms. There was,
Yeah.
for
For Hispanics, blacks, and everyone.
yeah, I mean, and this
Any
was,
ethnicity, yeah.
and so I hope that for our kids, the things that plague us now and the things that we talk
Will
about now
not be- yeah.
will seem ridiculous. We'll say,
Absolutely.
well, of course
And
it's this
yeah,
way.
of course it's this way. And
Right.
it definitely will be that. As soon as the older generations die out with their mentality, because their kids are more open, and then their kids are going to be a little bit more open, and it'll just slowly die out a little bit.
Yeah. And it wasn't 30, 40 years. It was like more like 50, 60 years ago with the separate bathrooms. But
I mean-
I just can't wait to see that tweet. Like, hey, fucking idiot.
Hey,
Like-
fucking idiot.
Like, I'm
Okay.
correcting myself. I'm not
I
perfect.
got two questions. One, how do you feel with it, like growing Hispanic movements, growing like Me Too and color casting and diversity hires and things like that, being a white person, meaning there's going to be probably less roles for you.
This is like, it's funny, right? Because as someone in my position, it feels I think we're very hesitant to speak on anything because it feels as though you can never say the right thing.
As a white
But-
person, yeah, but I mean, I truly want to hear your point
My
of view.
honest opinion is that it's long in coming and that I think it's a really good thing, and that in the immediate there's some discomfort for, I know, friends of mine who look like me, who are actors, who are
Right.
having a challenging time getting a role, and perhaps it's, between that and being able to pay their rent next month. And
Right.
so why I hate for my friends to have temporary discomfort, it's much the same that people of different ethnicities have been feeling for the last 70 years.
Right, exactly.
And do I feel like the scales have swung completely over to one side and they will find a balance? Yeah. And sometimes you need to do that.
Absolutely.
Like, you really need to sort of,
I feel like, that kind of what happened with Obama. It's like it swung one way, and then people swung far to the right with Trump and everything, and now it's going to swing far to the left, and hopefully instead of coming back extremely far to the right, we'll just be able to find that balance.
yeah, to me, everything that's going on right now in the diversity initiative has been long in coming.
Yeah.
And I think that for better or for worse, I've had a privileged existence in ways that I haven't even been aware of.
Right.
And that there might be some temporary discomfort for me or other people that look like me in this business because it is harder to get a role. Inevitably, I find that the roles and the art will be supported by the people, as you said, who are best suited for it.
Right,
And,
exactly.
And that we would only become hip to this, as you said, with your experience with the director, because inevitably, I don't think it's personal. I think in creative endeavors, we project our own existence.
Absolutely.
So we're more in,
Trying to cast yourself or things like that.
people that look like you and people.
Which is fine, but that's
by-
why you need ethnic directors and things for them to have that point of view and cast themselves that way.
Right, and I think that sometimes it's much like in good parenting, you have to try things despite your better thinking or despite what you're comfortable with, because only then can you be exposed to something that you never expected.
Right.
And it reveals itself to be this really cool, great thing with all these extra levels.
Absolutely.
I was listening to David Oyelowo who's like, a master.
Great. Yeah.
So talented, and he was saying on Marin's podcast, he was like, I don't want to go out for roles just for African American people. I want to go out for Ryan Gosling's roles.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like, because I know I can play these roles that are written for people like me,
exactly.
In quotes, but I want to be able to take that typical leading man part that might not think of someone like me. Yeah, and add all the levels to it that someone perhaps couldn't if they were,
Ryan
the typical
Gosling.
choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's dope. And I love Ryan Gosling, and I think he's super
Ryan
handsome.
No, I know. But see, I'm
And I'd like to kiss
there with
him. What?
You and me both. What?
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 I think we can end this podcast both agreeing that we want to make out with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And I think my wife would understand and support it, and then ask to go second.
Like Ryan Gosling.
My wife does look like a female Ryan Gosling.
Like,
you hear that,
blonde,
Paige?
Tall.
Yeah. Canadian?
Canadian? Oh,
no,
wow,
she's not
damn it.
Canadian. She's nice, but she's not that nice.
You don't want anyone that nice.
I love that. Like, that's going to be the one incendiary thing that comes out of this interview. Is like we talk about politics and all these things, and they're going to be like, the headline is Josh Peck overly generalizes Canada. Says the Canadians are nice. What's that about?
What's that about? Much about about nothing.
Tony Revelori, I love you. Thank you,
buddy. This is a great talk.
Bong.
Wow. What an episode. Right? Right? I think right. I mean, who saw that coming, what a journey this conversation goes on. Because at first, you as a listener, you're like, all right, listen to these two rabble rousers. These two knuckleheads chopping it up, giving it back and forth to each other. Good old young rhetoric. And then it gets into career and backstory, and you're digging in, and then all of a sudden it goes to the current politics of the movie business and the world, and you're like, well, I didn't know I was about to get some brain bombs. You know what I mean? I didn't know I was about to expand my thinking and see life in a completely different way. I didn't know I was going to get hit with a truth missile right to my frontal lobe, but wow, I want to thank you guys for that. And here, listen, I, as a representative of the show Curious, as the head of HR for the Curious podcast, I can officially say thank you, and you're welcome. Both. It's a service that it's part of our mission here at Curious to keep you laughing, keep you happy, help you on your commute, your gym, your just, your daily comings and goings. But we are here to make your life just a little bit better. And if we can inform you while we do it, well, hey, I guess that is just a beautiful byproduct of what we do here at Curious. So we want to thank you for tuning in. And please tune in every Tuesday at 3 in the morning. I think they drop the episodes at 3 in the morning. Don't quote me on that. I'm asleep. Anyway, love you guys. Thank you for listening. See you next week. Okay, bye.